It was some time throughout the Dragonborn's journeys that he came across a most peculiar statue. It seemed to depict Azura, the goddess of dusk and dawn. He approached. Climbing the slippery, snow-soaked steps, he ascended towards the shrine of the mysterious Daedric Prince. There, he saw someone. Aranea Lenith.
Azura has seen your coming, traveler. It was not curiosity, but fate that has led you here.
Seen my coming? What do you mean?
Azura has given me the gift of foresight. I had a vision of you walking up the steps to this altar, long before you were born. You have been chosen to be her champion. I know it is unexpected, but do not worry. It will all unfold as she has predicted.
Very well. What does Azura need?
You must go to a fortress, endangered by water, yet untouched by it. Inside, you will find an elven mage who can turn the brightest star as black as night. It is cryptic, I know, but Azura's signs are never wrong. I believe the fortress may refer to Winterhold. Ask if they know this elven enchanter.
I'd like to know more about Azura.
She is the goddess of dawn and dusk. Azura sees into the twilight of the future and guides her followers through it.
Where did this shrine come from?
My people, the Dunmer, built it. We fled from Morrowind after Vardenfell erupted almost 200 years ago. Those of us who were faithful to Azura were given a vision that led us away from the island before the worst came. This shrine is our thanks to her, that none will forget that she watches over us all.
Are you all alone here?
Yes, there were others at first, but Azura's visions tested everyone's faith. One by one, they left, afraid to know their own future. But I refuse to abandon the shrine. The visions are a gift. Azura warns me of tragedy, war, death, before it happens. I won't leave her guidance. May Azura's magic protect you.
Pixen Pooks left the shrine, a new quest fresh in his mind. Falling off the ledge due to misjudging the steps, he continued back towards his steed, Frost. He mounted her and was ready to travel to Winterhold. He arrived within an inn.
Is everything well, Nellicott?
There he saw a mage.
Oh, yes, quite fine. My accommodations here continue to be just what I need. Dagor and I have an understanding. He gives me privacy, and I make sure my experiments don't blow up his inn.
I'm looking for an elven mage who studies stars.
Who sent you? Was it the college? The Jarl? We agreed there would be no more questions.
A priestess of Azura sent me.
You're working with the Daedra? Right. Now tell me the one about the Argonian maid and the lusty baron.
I didn't agree to anything. Talk.
Just calm down. I'll tell you everything. What do you know about soul gems?
They're for enchanting, correct?
They are, except the gem is always consumed. They're frail, except for one. Azura's star, a Daedric artefact that allows any number of souls to pass through it. Some of us wanted to find out how. I was working under Malin Varen then. If only we knew what he was really planning.
What did Malin do?
Malin wanted to alter the star. He was dying, Disease. He thought he could store his own soul inside, become immortal. It drove him mad. Students started dying. Eventually, the college exiled him. He took a few loyal disciples to Illinalta's Deep and vanished. Look, I don't care who asked you to find the star, but don't take it back to Azura. The Daedra are evil. They're the reason Malin went insane.
How does Azura's star work?
I mentioned how the star is a soul gem, only it never gets depleted. There's another rule the artifact follows. You can only store white souls in the star belonging to the lesser creatures. Azura's magic won't allow black souls to enter it. As a mortal, Malin's soul was black, so part of his work was breaking past Azura's rules. He was close before. Well, I already told you.
How did the Daedra drive Malin insane?
Azura is no ordinary Daedra. She commands an entire realm inside of Oblivion. The more Malin worked on the star, the more she was able to damn him. It started slowly at first. Malin would see things that weren't there. Then he would yell at students over words they hadn't said. Then one day I walked in and Malin had killed a student, and in a horrific moment of inspiration, he started using her soul for his work.
It sounds like Malin got what was coming to him.
The college would agree with you, but do you have any idea how many innocent lives were cut short just so Azura could have revenge? We're nothing to the Daedra. Pawns to move around, praise and punish as they see fit. Until next time.
And there haven't been any problems.
Are you referring to your other customers? No, everything.
Pixen Pooks reflected on the words he had heard from Nelakar and wondered what his next move would be. Pixen Pooks stood before a sunken fort. This was no doubt the area Nelakar had led him to. He was not yet the omnipotent dragonborn he would one day be. He was still very much mortal, very much vulnerable. He was anxious as to what he would find inside. He waited for the loading screen, and the loading screen did load. Before him he saw a somewhat grisly sight, and his immediate instinct was to check to see if it had any loot. It did not. More grisly sights awaited him. As did a lovely piece of swelling music. He checked behind the waterfall for loot, such is the cliché, but it was averted this time around. There was nowhere to go but down, and so down he went. Air was so humid it was almost wet. There were a lot of dead here. Remembering his spells, he thought to muffle himself. And he carried on. He spied in the corner of the room a living skeleton, or at least one that was moving around. Arming his bow, he fired, and the skeleton was shattered. However, an apprentice necromancer was roused. Pixen Pooks thought to hide. He wanted the advantage of first shot against this man.
Must be my imagination.
Pixen Pooks chuckled to himself. This was not your imagination. Alas, he has been hit. He coated his weapon with the finest poison and drank a health potion to keep himself alive. It worked! But this was only an apprentice. He hadn't fought in some days, he had not the finesse that he had only just begun to build up. On the tables and shelves he spied soul gem fragments. People had been experimenting here, that much was obvious. Finding nothing else of use, he checked the other side of the room. When nothing of use was there, he checked the table at the end and found a human heart of all things. More soul gem fragments, and a few minor potions for his trouble. He opened the old wooden door and carried on. He saw in the distance another skeleton. Yes, he did.
Did you hear something?
More necromancers were roused. Oh dear. They had brought a necromancer to life, the very one he had killed. This seemed less than fair. Again, he sought to coat his weapons with poison. He unleashed his dragon shout. But then he died. No, I am kidding. That is of course not how the story goes. Our hero Pixen Pooks did not die that day. But he did find himself in a quandary. The risen necromancer he faced once more. The necromancer collapsed into ash. Oops. He was told repeatedly how pathetic he was. He did not believe their lies. He charged his enemies. Unleashing his dragon shout once more, the necromancer fell upon a shelf. This time they died. Pixen Pooks was ready to face his other attacker, but his previous attacker had come back to life. It didn't take long for her to burn once more. They were now engaged in a sort of game of spell tennis. Pixen Pooks could play as long as he needed to, for he had a backup partner. The last necromancer fell. Pixen Pooks knew wearily that his journey throughout this ruin had only just begun. He muffled himself once more. Inside, he found a surprisingly pleasant room, in a macabre sort of way. He scoured the room for anything that would be useful to him. What may seem like unnecessarily scroungy behaviour to you, Pixen Pooks justified as a constant resupplying of himself for the never-ending adventures. He crept into a room that seemed to be packed with alchemical ingredients. Though in fact it was not.